You good, Paul?
We are good. Thank you, Director.
Hey, thank you. I'm Joel Williams. I'm the Deputy Director at the Utah Division of Water Resources, and I am glad to be with you. I think I cut it a little bit close getting down here in time, but made it. Thank you. Mainly want to just express appreciation for each of you taking time out of your schedules to show up to talk with us about water in your area. We are trying something new with the state water plan, and Stephanie McGinnis here is the state water plan, what's the new title, manager?
State water plan manager.
And Stephanie was hired on with some short notice of like trying to get the state water plan across the finish line in about 18 months. Normally, this is something that takes years to put together. And after this next one comes out, we will be back on a rotation of getting it out every 5 to 10 years and having that time to kind of go in depth. With this one, we're doing a little bit of a scramble to get around every area of the state, talk with the folks and find out what are the water issues, what are the concerns, what do we need to know, what information needs to be included as we work on this state water plan. And so some of the folks that work with the Division of Water Resources that are here, we have Carly Payne, who is the Watershed Council Coordinator. Okay. And the watershed councils are part of this as well, because those have been established across the state in each region with the idea of having local discussions happening about water in that area. Information can be passed up to the Utah Watershed Council and then passed on to the governor and the legislature. And we view the state water plan similarly, that this will be a document that will have the audience of the legislature and the governor. And so if there's things that they need to know at a state level, let's make that known. We hope that this is a document that can have an impact, that can help to set the vision for the future of water in Utah. Your input is important. Going back to staff introductions, at the back we have Rick Webster, who works in our River Basin planning section. And we have Candace Shively, who works in our water conservation section. All of us work at the Division of Water Resources. We have our singular office at North Temple at the Department of Natural Resources, and that's kind of where we operate out of. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the time, and I will turn it over to Stephanie to walk us through the plan.
Thank you, Joel. I just want to thank all of you here in person, as well as we have folks joining us online this evening, for taking the time to meet with us. It's not lost on me that there are many other things that you could be doing with your time this evening. So we really do appreciate you joining us. As Joel mentioned, putting together this state water plan is a pretty big lift for our team, and we really are doing our best to get around across the state so that we can hear from you all and get your feedback on your thoughts and your concerns and what you would like to see in the state water plan. For those of you that are joining us online, you've probably noticed that you're unable to ask questions or make comments. There will be a survey at the end, and so that will be your opportunity to provide feedback. There also will be an email address on the last slide, so you can follow up with questions. Same for our in-person folks. You're welcome to take that survey. You're welcome to email us, but we also will have an in-person session. We'll just form probably a circle and chat. So I do hope that you'll stick around for that portion so that we can hear from you all this evening. This presentation will only take, 20, 25 minutes. I'll try not to put you all to sleep. And then after that, we will have a little conversation. So the Division of Water Resources mission is to plan, conserve, develop, and protect Utah's water resources. And developing the state water plan certainly falls underneath that umbrella. And as I mentioned, it really does take just about our entire team to put the state water plan together. From our staff that are collecting data and modeling and analyzing those data, to our staff, like the folks that we have here this evening, helping us to hold these meetings, to our staff that are helping us to draft sections of the plan. But the state water plan, it really is bigger than the Division of Water Resources. We rely heavily on our sister agencies across the state. We rely on our local partners, such as the watershed councils, the water conservancy districts, and we're also relying on you all, members of the public, to help inform the state water plan. And so this evening, I will provide an overview of the state water plan, what it is, what it isn't, why it matters. I'll give you just kind of a high-level overview of what we're planning to include in the state water plan at this point. And we'll also just share how you can help us shape the plan, not just tonight, but to stay involved throughout the process. And the purpose of the state water plan, we want to provide an overview of our current water resources. We want to provide strategies and actionable steps at the individual, local, and state levels to address challenges and also to help prepare us for the future. And we also, my hope is that this plan will serve as a strategic framework to support informed decision-making by those who are shaping, those that are managing and depending on Utah's water resources. And I want to just take us back through time a little bit and just talk about what planning has been in the past. The first sort of fully comprehensive state water plan was published in 1990, and we've had 2 iterations of the state water plan since. But planning for water in Utah goes back much further than that. And it's interesting to look back at these because the focus of these plans, it shifts through time. And to me, that's important because it just really emphasizes this idea that the water landscape that we're living in, it's not static. And so this plan, as we look at these plans, we'll see that shift change through time. So the first planning document, and again, this was not a full-blown state water plan. This plan was focused on development, increasing storage, and getting water to where it was needed. I also think this one has the coolest cover of them all. The 63 plan was pretty much kind of that same focus. It's focused on storing and moving water to where it's needed. When we get to the 1990 plan, and again, this was the first comprehensive state water plan, we start to see a bit of a shift in the focus. So we see entire sections that are devoted to water pollution, to the importance of fisheries and other aquatic wildlife. This plan also acknowledges water conservation as a necessary tool to manage our water resources. The second state water plan, this was published in 2001. And I think we probably all knew this, but it really addresses the fact that we live in a semi-arid climate. And it points out that we really need to be thinking about this and recognize this as we plan for the future. And in the most recent plan, it's reiterating this semi-arid climate, but it's also taking notice that we're seeing some changes in our long-term weather trends. And this will be, something that we continue to think about as we work on this next iteration. And one thing I just want to show here, this is a map from the US Drought Monitor, and this is covering the years from 2000 to 2019. And what it's showing us is the percent of weeks that each state spends in drought. And so to be considered a week in drought, it means at least half of the state must be in some level of drought. And so it's probably a little difficult to see the key on this, but you can see that Utah, it's not that deep red, but it's kind of that next one down. And so what that means is that Utah, during this time period for those 20 years, our state has spent about 40 to 50% of our weeks in some level of drought. So over that 20-year period, we spent about half of our weeks in some level of drought here in the state. And you all maybe have heard about what's going on up north with Great Salt Lake. We're seeing a decline in the water level. And we have and continue to have concerns regarding the dwindling amount of water that's available for storage in the Colorado River Basin. And this is a picture of Lake Powell in 2021. And at this time, this was a new historic low. This was the lowest it had been since the reservoir started filling back in the 60s. And then the reservoir hit another record low the next summer, and then the next summer. And I didn't look last week, but the week prior I looked, and Lake Powell's at about 29% full pool or max capacity. So it's about a third full of what it could actually hold. And to me, this just means we really can't stress enough how important it is that we pay attention to what is changing around us and how that might affect our thinking on how we manage our water resources. And I certainly don't want to paint just a gloom and doom picture this evening, because to me, from these challenges come opportunities. Developments in science and how we collect data, they can help us to better understand our changing conditions and help us to better manage our water resources. And just an example I want to give you is the Airborne Snow Observatory, or ASO for short. This is technology that allows for airborne surveys over a large area, an entire basin, an entire watershed, and it can give us a input on how deep the snow is, and maybe more importantly, how much water is in that snow, known as snow water equivalent or SWE. And this, traditionally we get our snowpack data from snowpack telemetry or snowtel sites, and those are really great for those point estimates. But it's hard to expand that information across a large area like this. And the division right now is involved in a multi-year pilot study to determine if this sort of technology might be the path forward to help us understand how much water really is building up in our mountains during the winter. And I also have collaboration bolded here as well. To me, collaboration is a big piece of solving our water resource mysteries. So again, we're working really tightly with our sister agencies. We're working with our local partners and as well as the public to help us inform what's going on in the state and what are your concerns as you think about water. And before we move on, this is probably a good time to tell you what the plan is not. I wish it were, but it is not a guarantee of water. It's also not a regulatory document. The Division of Water Resources is not a regulatory agency. However, the state water plan is really important. As Joel mentioned, this is something that lands in the hands of policymakers, in the hands of legislators. And in the 2021 plan, the most recent plan, there were a lot of goals and objectives that were out there as suggestions of how we might improve how we manage water resources. And to date, about 80% of those goals and objectives have been met. And I also just want to touch on quickly why it matters, right? Water affects us all, whether it's water from our tap, irrigation for farms, water for healthy rivers and lakes, for recreation and for ecosystem health. So for us, the state water plan, what we really want to do is make sure that we're thinking about providing a safe and reliable water supply that's going to support our environment, our communities, and our agriculture as we think about what we need to do now and also into the future. So I want to get into just the details. Again, this will be sort of high level this evening, but the plan will have a total of 9 chapters. And the total length of the plan will be about 150 pages. That's a lot of information to pack into a really small amount of space. And the state water plan, this is meant to be really pretty high level, but we will be linking out to all of the different plans that are going on in the state that are more localized. So chapters 2, 3, and 4, I see these the chapters that outline what the limiting or sort of constraining factors are when it comes to how much water we have in our state and what we can do with that water. And then within those constraints, how do we support our environment, our communities, and our agriculture? We'll also have a chapter that discusses the unique challenges within 11 basins within Utah. And one of the reasons that we're here this evening is to hear from you all about what are these more local concerns so that we can include those in the state water plan. So diving in a bit more, chapter 2, this will provide an overview of Utah's water constraints. For example, we only get so much precipitation here in Utah, and that's what we have to work with. And this plan will also explain how supply and use are measured, as well as provide a current water budget that details our current supply and our current use. And the water budget, this is just an example of what we can do with those data. You can see up here on this, it's kind of busy, but with this water budget, you can see on the left side, we have diversions by basin. And up on the right top, we have depletion. And on the bottom, we have return flow. So diversion, that's water that's diverted from a water body for human use. And depletion, that's what portion of that water that's diverted, that's consumed and is no longer available for use. Return flow is probably what you're thinking. That's the amount of diverted water that's then returned back to a water body. And these are really key pieces of information when you're managing water, whether that's at the local or state level. And so our team, they collect water budget data. annually, and they crunch these numbers and can produce information like this. And it's really helpful also for allowing our team to look at, how do depletion and diversion and return flow change with things like water conservation or changes in irrigation methods. So chapter 3, this will focus on drivers of change that affect Utah's water supply and demand. Two of the big ones are certainly going to be climate and population. We've seen more frequent and severe droughts across the state in recent years, and Utah's population is growing rapidly in many regions. And so both of these create uncertainty for our water future. So with the state water plan, we're trying to create that roadmap to help us prepare for and adapt to changes so that our water future hopefully looks a little bit more like the right than the picture on the left. This chapter will also highlight how improvements in technology and conservation can help us adapt to a changing water landscape. And we'll also talk about how shifts in policy and management might improve our ability to adapt, and whether that be at the state or more local level. With chapter 4, we'll talk about water administration. So we'll cover who does what at the state, regional, and local levels. This will include agencies like the Division of Water Resources at that state level, all the way down to the local irrigation companies. Each has a specific role in planning, developing, regulating, delivering water. We'll highlight key laws and compacts here in Utah. We'll talk about water rights and allocation, including federally reserved water rights, which includes tribal rights. We'll touch on innovations in water administration. A new one that you may have heard of, and I think some of you maybe grabbed here in the room, grabbed the handout, is on the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan, or UWIP. And this is a new program that aims to improve coordination and funding for water infrastructure projects across the state. So again, within sort of these sideboards that are outlined in chapters 2, 3, and 4, how do we support our environment, our communities, and our agriculture? And I want to talk high level of what will be included in the plan, and then I'll also highlight some water resource challenges that are relevant here at the local level. So the chapter 5 will be highlighting the importance of protecting our watersheds. Healthy watersheds provide a multitude of services, such as maintaining and improving water quality. A healthy watershed can help us to increase our water storage and also mitigate the effects of flooding. And they also provide a lot of great habitat, and that's a key factor in supporting and maintaining biodiversity. And a lot of us like to play in our watersheds, and beyond a great place to play, a lot of this recreation is a real economic boom for a lot of our communities. So very important piece. We'll also address some of the major threats that our watersheds face. Pollution and invasive species are two major ones. And pollution has a multitude of sources and a multitude of negative effects within a watershed. It can affect water quality for aquatic life, for human use. Invasive species, both plants and animals, can crowd out natives, disrupt ecosystems. They can affect the quality and the quantity of water. And one of the big issues with invasive species is that they're really hard to detect until they've established themselves in a system. And once they've established themselves, it's usually difficult to impossible to eradicate them. And that can turn into a major economic cost for communities and agencies to mitigate their negative effects. We'll also highlight some management plans that are already in place to protect our native species, especially those that are listed as threatened or endangered. And really, to me, at the end of the day, if we don't have a healthy watershed, it's really hard to support our communities and our agriculture. So I'll move into our next chapter on vibrant communities. Clean drinking water, supporting growth and development, ensuring safe and reliable infrastructure. These are all important to ensure that our communities are resilient. We'll cover the importance of long-term planning, and we want to ensure that our water resources are ready to support areas with a growing population, ensure that our economic opportunities are set up for success as we see increases in things like energy development, especially geothermal and other alternative energy sources. And we want to make sure that we have a strategy in place to seize future opportunities like hosting the 2034 Olympics. We'll dive into the details of how we can better manage demand through growing water wise, through use of things like smart water technologies such as smart irrigation timers. We'll dive into all of the different rebate programs and incentives and educational workshops that are available to Utahns to make water-wise decisions. And we'll highlight the positive of things like metering secondary connections or implementing tiered water rates that basically reward conservation efforts. And as the saying goes in Utah, we're either in drought or preparing for the next one. So we'll outline how the drought response plan helps us to monitor and respond to drought in our communities. And just as we're looking at how we can better manage demand, we'll also look at how we can expand and optimize our available supply through planning for repair and replacement of aging infrastructure, development of new infrastructure, and implementing projects that focus on things like water reuse, aquifer storage recovery, and water loss control across the state. And then the final chapter that I'd like to discuss before we highlight some basin specifics is productive agriculture. I don't need to tell this room that ag is really a cornerstone of Utah's identity and economy. And the state water plan is aiming to support our producers by identifying programs and other financial opportunities to improve operations, as well as identifying ways to use water more efficiently, all while we're preserving agricultural lands and traditions. And so the plan will outline some opportunities, such as the Agricultural Water Optimization Program. This is a program that invests a significant amount of money in trying to help our producers. And they do this through a competitive grant process. And it's kind of focused into two main categories. So looking at projects that are on-farm, as well as canal or irrigation company projects. And really the idea is to address water efficiency at every stage of agricultural use. We'll talk about conservation easement programs. These are voluntary legal agreements between a landowner and a qualified organization, such as a land trust or a government agency. And it permanently restricts certain types of development or land use in order to protect specific conservation values. And those conservation values, it could be protecting agricultural production, it could be protecting water resources, just creating and preserving open space. Another big one that we'll talk about is the Agricultural Voluntary Incentive Program. And this is offered through the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, or UDAF. And the goal of the program is to assist producers that are managing cropland or pasture systems with implementing a wide variety of best management practices, or BMPs. And these BMPs can help to improve yields, improve water quality, build soil health, or meet other operational goals. So we'll be digging into those BMPs, both off-farm as well as on-farm. And the off-farm, those are really going to focus in on improving the conveyance system, as well as the measurement and control of water throughout the system. And then the on-farm, those are looking at optimizing use that's focused on both the system infrastructure, as well as the management of crops, soil, irrigation, water application. And this slide, I just want to give you a moment to just kind of read through this. I didn't thank the Watershed Council at the beginning of this talk, but I should have. The Cedar Beaver Watershed Council has been really helpful already in working with us to help shape the state water plan. And in our meetings, these are just a few things that have been identified as issues, as challenges, and things that should be thought about and addressed here locally. And so these are some things that I just invite you to look at and think about. Are these things that keep you up at night? And are there other things that keep you up at night? And so we'll be talking about these in kind of our next portion when we drop the slides and we kind of get in a group and chat. Before we do that, though, I do want to discuss the timeline and how you can stay engaged through the process. We're holding meetings like this, as I mentioned, in all 11 basins across the state. These will be running through late October. And then our team will spend the winter writing. And then next summer, you'll have another opportunity to provide feedback on the state water plan. At this point, we'll have what we consider to be a final draft. So we'll turn it over to you all and see if you agree that it is a final draft. And then, as Joel said, we have it might not seem like a tight timeline, but it really is to have a final publication ready by December of 2026. These QR codes, just so you all know, you can grab them now, but they'll also be up at the end of the presentation. If you would like to stay involved and be notified when the public comment period is ready next summer and when the final publication is ready in December of 2026, the left QR code is where you'll want to sign up. You may get another email or two, but I promise we will not be bombarding you with state water plant emails. Probably just, 2 to 4 between now and December of 2026. If you would like to get involved in water issues more locally, please check out the Watershed Council's QR code. This will take you to a page, will give you information on the councils, and it will share information on when the next meeting will occur and how you can join that. And these meetings occur pretty much quarterly. And again, those of you that are online, we do hope that you'll take the survey. Those of you in the room, you're welcome to take the survey as well, but we do hope that you'll stay and join us. I'll have this QR code up at the end as well. And what we'd like to do, just to explain for you in the room, we have a pretty small group. What we've been doing with larger groups is joining different tables and having sort of breakout sessions, but I'm thinking in a moment we can just maybe form a circle and just have a big conversation. So again, you're welcome to take the survey, but we do hope that you'll stay and join us. We'll spend about an hour just chatting if y'all are willing. Couple of things with that, because we do have kind of a big group, I just hope as we get going, if you'll try to just limit your initial comments to just a couple of minutes, we'll kind of go through each of those topics that I mentioned before, the healthy watersheds and ecosystems, the vibrant communities, as well as the productive agriculture. But I just want to make sure that everyone in the circle feels like they have the ability to speak and be heard. We are recording, and that's just because if you've ever had to facilitate holding a conversation and take notes at the same time, it's really difficult to do. So we will be recording it so that when our team gets back, we can just take a look at that transcript and get those main points to make sure that we don't miss anything that you all have mentioned. And then the final ask is just to please be kind to each other. Water is important to all of us. You wouldn't be here this evening if it wasn't important. And we all have different views and perspectives on why water is important. So I just ask that we respect each other. With that, the state water plan at utah.gov email there, that's definitely something that you'll want to take note of. If you think there's anything that you might want to follow up on specifically, I will leave these QR codes up for the group. And again, thank you to those of you that have joined us online, and we hope that you will take the survey and provide feedback.